Aphrodite, a symbol of beauty and femininity. That's what everybody knows her as. But there is so much more to Aphrodite that people don't know. And it's all bad stuff. Like, it's terrible. She might have been fine as hell, but Aphrodite was a problem. Honestly, I never understood why Aphrodite has somehow become synonymous as a positive image of femininity and love, because I don't see anything positive about rampant cheating and extremely petty and insecure behavior to the point of ruining innocent people's lives, killing people, and even starting a war that ended a whole civilization. All of which are things Aphrodite did. And then there are people who claim that Aphrodite is some sort of protector of women. Bro, Aphrodite cursed a woman to fall in love with her father and seduce him in the darkness, and that father then ended up killing his daughter. Why did Aphrodite do that? Because that woman was so beautiful, it triggered Aphrodite's insecurities. And that's all it takes with her. Aphrodite constantly cursed anyone that slighted her in any random way. And you have no idea how disgusting some of these curses Aphrodite dished out were. But you'll see. We'll get there. I'm not holding back. I'm gonna tell you about the sides of Aphrodite that no one wants to talk about. Queen of pettiness, who had her hand in so many Greek tragedies, including the Trojan War and the death of Heracles. So, let's do this. Note that there are some extra facts at the end of the video that don't really fit my flow of storytelling, but for completion's sake I want to include them, so I add them at the end of the video. Watch until then if you want everything there is to know about Aphrodite. Aphrodite's favorite form of punishing people was to use her powers to make people fall madly in lust. And with that in mind, and how very fitting that Aphrodite was born from a pair of balls that were chopped off during the lustful act. Yeah, you heard that right. She was born from a pair of detached testicles. The Titan Kronos once ruled over the Greek heavens before Zeus, but before Kronos, Uranus was the supreme god, and Kronos was his son. And because Greek mythology loves itself a bloody succession story, Kronos chopped his father's balls off while his father was ready to get freaky with his wife, Gaia, Kronos' mother. Yep, that means Kronos was hiding in the shadows, watched his mom and dad go through all that foreplay, and then jumped out to chop some suey before insertion. Oh man, I love Greek mythology. Kronos then took over as the new leader and tossed his father's bloody balls into the ocean. And since Uranus was a big guy, those were some big balls. Big balls, big splash. And from that splash, from those waves, Aphrodite emerged as beauty itself, so beautiful that the place she emerged at, Cyprus, became the most beautiful place on earth because her beauty was radiating, nuclear. You get me? But before Aphrodite stepped onto Cyprus, she was actually heading for another island, Rhodes. Unfortunately, she was not welcomed there because Poseidon's 6 sons arrogantly turned her away at the shores, which rude, yes, but Aphrodite's response was to use her powers of lust and desire to drive these 6 men so mad that they then sexually assaulted their own mother and saw the sexual aspect of that assault through to the end. They raped her. And after they were done, the mother took her own life. And when Poseidon heard of that story, he buried his 6 sons alive. Yeah, Aphrodite had no chill. So let's look at her greatest hits of atrocities. Hippolytus was a young man who worshipped the virgin goddess Artemis and thus decided to stay a virgin for life, which pissed Aphrodite off because to her all virgins are losers that deserve to suffer. So her punishment for him was to have his stepmother Phaedra lust after him. Wait, is that a punishment? That's the plot of all the Brazos movies I like so much. I love those movies. Stepmom Phaedra, in fact, was lusting after her boy so hard that she felt physically ill and said she'll kill herself unless her stepson does what Brazos says one is supposed to do with stepmoms. But Hippolytus was disgusted at the idea, and so Phaedra did kill herself and left a note for her husband saying that Hippolytus raped her. Yeah, I know. plot twist, but the real plot twist is that Hippolytus' father is the hero Theseus, son of Poseidon. So Theseus then cursed Hippolytus in Poseidon's name, and the innocent Hippolytus died. Well done, Aphrodite. One family ruined, but I'm just getting started. Hippomenes once failed to pay his due for Aphrodite's blessing, so she drove him mad with lust to have sex with his wife in the sacred temple of Rhea, which caused Rhea to turn him and his wife into lions. King Tyndareus didn't worship Aphrodite enough, so Aphrodite cursed his 3 daughters to forever betray their husbands. There's more, but you get the gist. And if you're now saying, well, these are all men suffering, Aphrodite just didn't care about men, but she protected the girls. Well, then I have you right where I wanted you, because there's a sequel album. The woman Polyphonte wanted to remain a virgin for life, which, as we already learned, Aphrodite is not a big fan of virgins, so Aphrodite cursed her to have sex with a bear. The women on the island of Lemnos also scorned Aphrodite and were punished by Aphrodite cursing them with horrible, unwashable stench. And the women on the island of Cyprus committed the crime of, yeah, you guessed it, pissing off Aphrodite. So Aphrodite cursed them with a passion to prostitute their own bodies. They became the first prostitutes. And then there's Psyche, a woman that was so beautiful that through no fault of her own, others declared her more beautiful than Aphrodite. So Aphrodite carefully constructed Psyche's torment and utter downfall. Again, you get the point. You trigger one of Aphrodite's insecurities, you suffer. Of course, there was more to Aphrodite than just punishing people. She also had a relationship with Aries that is nowadays somehow romanticized as this hot, passionate relationship, but really was incredibly toxic, and both cheated on each other all the time. It's horrible, so let's explore. So there's one thing I have to clarify here. Despite her evils, Aphrodite's behavior was very much in line with the other gods. Zeus and Poseidon committed so many atrocities that they probably saw Aphrodite's 2 debut albums as a really solid start. So on Mount Olympus, where insecurities ran unchecked and escalated daily, Aphrodite was still on the ethically and morally good side. And that, coupled with her beauty, made her very desired. Too desired. Aphrodite was the most beautiful thing to ever exist, and Zeus was afraid of the effect her beauty would have on everyone. So, for once, Zeus did not take part in the Festival of Thirst and instead forced Aphrodite into a marriage against her will, because that usually solves most problems, right? The husband, not of her choice, was Hephaestus, the ugliest of all the gods, and this did not turn into some kind of Beauty and the Beast story. Aphrodite was stuck in a marriage that forever remained loveless. That's important for context. The one Aphrodite did love and desire was Aries, war itself, aka the most toxic of all the gods. Fitting for Aphrodite, so it didn't take long for King and Queen Toxic to get it on, and their love was defined by pure passion, since both are representations of that. Aphrodite for the passion of love and lust, and Aries for violence and war. In fact, Aphrodite and Aries are the reason that love and war are 2 words so often uttered together. The merging of their passions is why humanity so often disguises conquests or violence as acts in the name of love. Problem was, of course, Aphrodite was still married to Hephaestus, and at first the ugly god of blacksmiths didn't know about Aries and Aphrodite because they got to bumping and grinding whenever the sun was down. That's not a metaphor to say that they did it in dark. That's actually literal and very relevant because Helios is the sun god, and when the sun is up, he sees everything. Helios is a serious snitch. So Team Toxic waited until Helios was asleep before they got nasty. And when they did get nasty, Ares forced the soldier Alectryon to stand guard at the door and warn them before the sun does come up. You with me? Good. Remember how I said every god desires Aphrodite? I meant that. Hypnos, the god of sleep, was super jealous of Ares tapping that. So one day he made Alectryon fall asleep while on guard duty, and the sun came up while Aphrodite and Ares were still intertwined. So Helios saw what they were up to and immediately snitched to Hephaestus. As punishment, Ares turned Alectryon into a rooster, which is why roosters are now forever destined to announce the rising of the sun. Hephaestus, meanwhile, was pissed, but Aphrodite and Ares didn't stop their affair. Nothing could stop them. So since Hephaestus is the god of blacksmiths, he had an idea. He crafted a golden, irremovable net that he then threw on Aries and Aphrodite during the act to trap them. Genius. Now he could invite everybody over and show them what Aries and Aphrodite have been up to. And then he realized that he just trapped the chiseled god of muscles and war with the goddess of unparalleled beauty and lust under a net, in a bed, naked. All the gods and goddesses were like, bro, I switch places in a heartbeat. So Hephaestus kind of realized that all of this is hopeless. He removed the net and just learned to live with their affair. Again, there was no stopping Aries and Aphrodite. Love and war, Venus and Mars, and they went on to have children that were symbolic of the pure passion that defined them. Phobos, the god of fear, Deimos, the god of terror, Harmonia, the goddess of harmony, Eros, the god of love, and Anteros, the god of heartbreak. But if you think that this somehow has a happy ending, you must be new to passionately toxic relationships. Aries and Aphrodite committed so many disgusting acts towards one another in their relationship that they make Johnny Depp and Amber Heard look cute. I feel like it's time for another greatest hits album. Aries slept with Eos, the goddess of dawn, so Aphrodite cursed Eos with a seriously unquenchable thirst for young men, aka she turned her into a hopeless case. Yeah, good save. Didn't really make much of a difference though, because in total Aries had 20 baby mamas. Yeah, that boy belonged to the streets. Aphrodite meanwhile cheated on Aries with Dionysus and Hermes and Poseidon and Adonis and Anchises and Butes and Phaeton. Yeah, she was busy, and all that resulted in 10 children. Streets. Both of you, streets. And if the name Adonis made you go, wait a minute, I heard that before, isn't there more to that? There's more to that. Remember the woman Aphrodite cursed to fall in love with her father? Her name was Mira, and Mira was so beautiful that her mother boasted about her beauty. You know, just a proud mom repping her beautiful daughter, claiming she is more beautiful than Aphrodite. I love my girl. So Aphrodite was like...
It became personal with me.
Aphrodite cursed Mira to fall in love with her own father. Forced by the curse, Mira seduced her father in complete darkness, and he did not know it was his daughter, and for 9 nights they laid together in the dark until she was pregnant. And when he found out, he was so angry and so heartbroken, he tried to kill his daughter and then killed himself. Mira survived this attempt and begged the gods to turn her into something other than human to escape her fate. So the gods turned her into the Myrrh tree, and after 9 months, Adonis emerged from that tree, the most beautiful boy ever, and it was Aphrodite who found him. Aphrodite knew the boy would grow up to be stunning, so ever the groomer, she didn't want the other goddesses to pursue him and gave him to Persephone, who lived in the underworld, to raise him away from everybody. And Adonis did grow up to be stunning. He became the most beautiful man to ever walk the planet. And when adult Adonis got back to the surface world, Aphrodite was all over him all the time. Things got X-rated real fast. Like, they had the love nest and everything was nasty, man. So that's where Aries enters this story. He was used to cheating and used to being cheated on, but this was different. Aphrodite loved Adonis and spent all her time with him. So eventually Aries got mad jealous and decided it was time for Adonis to die. Aries knew Adonis loved hunting, so the god of war transformed into a boar and killed Adonis on his next hunt. Easy money. Lucky for Adonis, he had another woman who loved him in the underworld, but when adult Adonis returned, Persephone's motherly love turned into desire. The beautiful Adonis was simply irresistible, and the usually loyal wife of Hades started an affair with the man she once raised. Yeah, if that shocks you, that's just classic Greek mythology. Then one day, Aphrodite came storming into the underworld to claim her lover back. She couldn't live without him. She asked Hades if she could please have Adonis back in the world of the living, and Hades was like, have him back? Girl, can an elephant walk backwards? And Aphrodite was like, I don't know, maybe they slowly, and Hades was like, damn, I actually don't Hey, Persephone, get a living walk. Doesn't matter, you can't have him back. I don't give people back to the world of the living. Get out of here. And by now, you know Aphrodite's temper. She was pissed, and she promised to starve the world of love and turn it into a place filled with hatred only. And she left the underworld and made good on her threat. In a way, this negative of starving the world of love also proves one of Aphrodite's few positives. She does bring love and lust and thus life into this world. No matter how many times she abuses that ability, without her, love and lust and thus we wouldn't exist, you know what I mean? So back to her abusing that ability though. Aphrodite turned off the love tap and all love faded, which even reached Zeus and Hera, whose already terrible marriage turned into an absolute nightmare. So at that point, Zeus was like, I gotta get involved. And he settled the dispute by saying that Adonis had to spend a third of the year with Aphrodite, so the world gets love back, and a third of the year in the underworld, and the third, wherever he chooses. And Adonis chose to spend most of his time with Aphrodite, but he still made people fall in love with him left and right wherever he went, and not just women. Heracles, aka Hercules, also fell in love with Adonis and seduced the man for some sweet, sweet guy love. And it is, to me, the most hilarious thing that after everything Heracles did, after all the adventures, after all the dangers, this is what eventually ended up getting him killed. Because you do not cross Queen Petty. Boy, Aphrodite was furious that Heracles took Adonis from her. So she devised a plan to kill him. She made the centaur Nessos lust after Heracles' wife. Yeah, Heracles was married too. Everybody here is just cheating on everybody. They're all married and just getting it on. Greek mythology. Mad with lust, Nessos kidnapped Heracles' wife. But we're talking about Heracles here. So Heracles caught the guy and killed him. You know, that's what Heracles does. Specifically, Heracles killed Nessos with a poisoned arrow. And that's what Aphrodite was waiting for. She then quickly told the dying centaur to soak a robe in his poisoned blood and tell Heracles' wife that, should she ever fear that her husband might be unfaithful, she should make him wear this robe as a love charm. Somehow that made sense to Heracles' wife. So the next time he cheated, his wife casually was like, hey, you're really killing that whole lion fur look. I don't know if I ever told you, but it takes a real man to pull off that fur and that heat. I don't know how you do it, honestly. It's incredible. But I was thinking, you want to try a robe? Look how nice and red. It's beautiful. So she put the robe on him, and Heracles was immediately poisoned. So poisoned that the pain was so agonizing, Heracles decided to burn himself to escape it. The point is, Aphrodite's wrath, Aphrodite's pettiness, knew no limits and even killed Greek mythology's greatest hero. But the crown jewel of disasters caused by Aphrodite's insecurities would come later. Due to pure vanity, Aphrodite would set a chain of events into motion that causes a great war. A war we all know as the Trojan War. But that's a video for another day. Time for the extra notes. That whole story of Adonis and Aphrodite has so many different versions, you have no idea. It is one of the most popular Greek love stories, and when a Greek myth is popular, it's like a song being covered over and over, and with every cover, it changes. I chose the version I chose because in general, the story of Adonis and Aphrodite echoes the story of Persephone and Hades. One person desires another, and a third person is the maternal figure who doesn't want to see her loved one go. In this case, Persephone is the maternal figure, but there are also versions where she never hooks up with Adonis at all, or is not maternal at all, and there are versions where the boar that kills Adonis is not Aries, and there are versions where Adonis is actually Hades in the sky, so you can see the variety is endless. Also, notably, I didn't go into any detail on Eros in this video, the son of Aphrodite, who Aphrodite loved fiercely and worked with a lot. That's, by the way, another rare positive you could attribute to her, loving her son fiercely, but that fierce maternal love seriously spirals out of control and ruins the life of an innocent woman, Psyche, who I briefly mentioned in this video. But the reason I don't talk about her and Eros in much detail in this one is because they will get their own video. So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell and all that so you don't miss that video or my 2 uploads every week in general. And leave comments on topics you want to see me cover, or just comments to give me feedback or show some love. Until then, bye. Love y'all.